Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to Sew with Mediva. And if you're a returning subscriber or a returning viewer, thank you for sticking to my channel. So in today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to cut and sew this trendy side gathered dress. So this video is very detailed, very easy to follow, and very beginners friendly. So this is what the back of the dress looks like. So if this is something you're interested in, keep watching and make sure you watch till the end so that you won't miss out on any details. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find it useful. Leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and also share with your loved ones. So I made use of 3 yards of Ankara fabric for this dress, and these are my other materials: my ruler, my scissors, my tape rule, and my chalk. So let's go ahead to fold the fabric. So we're going to cut both the front and the back panels together, and I have my fabric here. It's in a fold of 2. The front panel is in a fold of 2 and the back panel is also in a fold of 2. So to get the amount of fabric to fold, you're going to divide the biggest part of your body by 4. So mine is my hip measurements divided by 4 is 11.5 inches, and I added extra 2.5 inches to it for my seam allowance. So I have about 14 inches here on fold, and the length of my dress is 38 inches. So the back panel is 1.5 inches bigger than the front panel on the closed angle because of the zipper allowance at the back. So the next thing we want to do is to mark the vertical measurement. So the upper part of my fabric is going to serve as my shoulder line. So place a tape rule on the shoulder line and take your bust point. Mine is 11 inches. From my shoulder to my bust is 11 inches. From my shoulder to my half length is 16 inches. From my shoulder to my hip line is 23 inches. So go ahead to mark your own appropriate measurement. Mine is 23 inches, and the full length of the dress is 38 inches, and I added 1 inch to it for turning over with my lining. So go ahead to extend the points you just marked to form a line this way. So after extending the lines, this is what we have. So this dress is not going to have any joining on the waistline. It's a cut together dress. That is why I am marking all the measurements on it. So next thing we want to do is to come over to the upper part of the fabric and mark your shoulder to shoulder measurements divided by 2. So you're taking this on the front panel alone because of the zipper allowance. Just mark your measurements on the front panel alone. So my shoulder to shoulder measurements divided by 2 is 8 inches, but I'll take out 1 inch from it because it's a sleeveless dress. But if you're adding sleeve to yours, you don't need to do that. And then from that point, I'll come down by my round armhole measurements divided by 2. So mine is 9 inches, but I took out 1 inch again from it because it's a sleeveless dress. You don't want the armhole area too opened. So I'll connect the 2 points together and further extend the line this way. So the next thing we want to do is to mark the neckline measurement. So on the front panel alone, again, the wideness of my neckline is 4 inches and the depth of the back neckline is 2 inches because I want it higher at the back. So you can work with whatever neckline you want for yours. It is totally optional, but for the front neckline, I made use of 4 inches for the depth. So you can make use of V neckline, whatever style you want for yours. So I'll go ahead to just connect the points together. So I'll cut out the back neckline first before I cut out the front, and then I'll come over to this point and take my shoulder slope of 1 inch and slant it this way. So on this line, I'll take the midpoint of the line, which is 3.5 inches for me, and then I'll come over to this new line I drew and mark my round bust divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches, and then I'll add my seam allowance to it. So I'll go ahead to connect the points together this way to form a curve, to form my armhole curve. So the next thing we want to do is to mark the round body measurements. So remember to place all your measurements on the front panel alone. Do not place it with the zipper allowance. So on the front panel, I'm going to come over to my bust line and place my round bust measurements divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches. And then I'll add my seam allowance of 1.5 inches, making 12 inches. So I'll connect the points down to meet the armhole line this way. And on the waistline, my round waist measurements divided by 4 is 9 inches. I'll add 1 inch for that and 1.5 inches for seam allowance, making 12 inches. And then on the hip line, my round hip measurements divided by 4 is 11.5 inches, and then I'll add 1.5 inches for seam allowance, making 13.5 inches. So I'll mark that same 13.5 inches on the full length of my dress. So go ahead to place your own appropriate measurements on your fabric this way. So I'll go ahead now to connect the points together. So I've connected from my hip line down to the full length of my dress, and then I'll connect from the chest line to the bust line and to the waistline. Then from the waist, I'll just curve it out to my hip line this way. So let me go ahead now to cut this out so that you guys can see what we've done clearly. So I'm going to cut out the back neckline first before I cut out the front. So I'll take the shoulder slope and then cut out the remaining part of my fabric. So we're cutting both the front and the back panels together, so make sure they are together when you're cutting. So after cutting, this is what we have. So the next thing we want to do is to modify the side of the dress to create our gathered effect. So let's go ahead now to do that. So let's go ahead now to cut out the front neckline. So this is what we have. So the next thing we want to do is to form the point where we'll be having the gathers. So I'll come over now to this half length area and come down by 4 inches. So you can make yours lower or higher depending on what you want, but for mine I came down by 4 inches from my half length or my waistline. And then I'll come over to the closed angle of my fabric, and then I will take 5 inches. So you can make yours 4 inches, 3 inches depending on how narrow you want the lower part to be. So I'll mark 5 inches for mine, and then I'll connect it down to meet the other side, forming a curve this way. I'll go ahead to just connect the 2 points together. So go ahead to connect the 2 points together. So I'm going to be cutting out this part of my dress. I'll cut it out now, because that part of my dress is going to have gathers. So go ahead to cut it out. So I'm going to set these pieces aside because I'm still going to use them for my slash and spread to get the amount of fabric I'll be needing for my gathers. So let's go ahead to separate the front panel from the back. So this is the back, and I'm going to eliminate 0.5 inches from the center back. So this is the waistline. I've already marked the points on it. So I'm going to come in by 0.5 inches on the half length or the waistline measurement. And that 0.5 inches, I'll slant it down to the hip line this way, and also slant it up to the bust point. So this is going to help your dress fit very well at the back without any bulging. So let's go ahead now to cut out that 0.5 inches and then proceed to open up the back panel. So the opening of the back panel is going to help you insert your zipper at the back. So we have 2 pieces of the back panel, as you can see, and we have just 1 piece of the front panel. So this is the zipper bulging allowance that we removed. So right now I'm going to use this pattern to cut out my lining, and then I will show you guys the next thing to do. So after using my fabric to cut out my lining, this is what we have. I just pinned it out to the lining and cut it out. So we have 2 pieces of the back panel. So I'll go ahead to separate them now and show you guys the next thing to do. So the next thing we want to do is to turn over with our lining. So this is the front panel. I'll place my lining on it, right sides facing each other, and then I'll start by joining the neckline areas together. I'll close up the sides and also close up the lower part of my front panel. I'll leave this curved area open for turning over, and then the back panels as well. I'll place my lining on each of the pieces, right sides facing each other. I'll close up the neckline. I'll leave the armhole area opened. I'll close up the zipper area, and then I'll turn it over and show you guys the next thing to do. So after I stitch down the neckline and the sides to the lining, this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna head to notch the front neckline. I'll show you guys how to do it with the back. So I'll show you guys how to just notch it at the back. So just form small notches. Make sure you don't get to the seam when you are notching. And then after doing that, let's go ahead now to turn it over to the right side. So I still left the shoulder and the armhole area open. So I'll be showing you guys how to finish it neatly later. So let's go ahead to turn it over now to the right side. So after turning, make sure you bring out all the edges of your fabric. So after flipping over to the right side, this is what it looks like. I've also gone ahead to iron it out, so you can see how neat it came out. These are the back panels. I have also ironed it out, and this is what the neckline looks like of the front panel. You can see how neat it looks. So the next thing we want to do now is to mark our darts. So I'll show you guys how to do it on the front panel. So go ahead to fold your fabric into 2 equal parts this way to get the center point, to get the center front. So fold it into 2 this way, and then I'll go ahead to place my vertical measurements on it. Starting from the highest point of my shoulder, I'll place my bust point, which is 11 inches. I'll place my waist half length, and I'll place my hip line, and then I'll further extend the lines. So I'll repeat the same measurements on the other side, and then I'll extend the lines also. So come over to the closed angle of your fabric and mark your nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. So mine is 4 inches. So I've marked 4 inches on all the lines, and then I'll connect the points together. And then I'll come over to this half length and take 0.5 inches on both sides, half of an inch, and then come down by 1.5 inches from the bust point. And then I'll connect the points together this way down to meet the hip line also. So this same thing I did here, I'm going to repeat it on the other side. I'll first of all come in by 4 inches on all the lines, which is my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. Connect the lines together, take 0.5 inches or half of an inch on both sides, then come down by 1.5 inches from the bust point and then connect it together this way. So when you want to join your darts, you're going to just open it up this way and then go ahead to sew in your darts. So just join the two fabrics together this way and then go ahead to sew it. You can use your pins to hold it down before you stitch it. So you're stitching down that other side of the line, you're taking in that 1 inch for your dart for fitting. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for the back, just that the back I won't come down by 1.5 inches from the bust point. I'll just connect it all the way to meet the bust point. So let me go ahead to do that. So after I took in the darts, this is what it looks like on the wrong side. I've taken the darts in and these are the back panels. I also took in the darts and I started from the bust points just like I explained earlier. So I'm going to set the front panel aside now while we start working on the back. So the first thing I want to do is to insert the zipper at the center back. So I'm going to place them this way, right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to determine where I want my zipper to stop. So this is the zipper I'll be working with, and the first thing I'm going to do is to determine where I want my zipper to stop. So starting from the back neckline depth, I'm going to come down by 19 inches. So my zipper is going to stop at the 19 inches mark, just above my hip line. So I'll go ahead to mark that point. And then remember, we are left with 1 inch for our zipper allowance since we used half an inch to turn over with the lining. So I'm going to come in by that 1 inch and then I'll just mark in that 1 inch all the way down. We used half an inch to turn over with the lining, so we'll have 1 inch left. So I'm going to stitch down that 1 inch from that point and show you guys what it looks like. So after joining the back panels, I went ahead to iron out the seam. I opened it up and then ironed it out all the way to the upper part. So this is the point where we'll be attaching the zipper. So I'm going to flip my zipper over to the wrong side this way, and then on this 1 inch fold, I'm going to go ahead and use my pins to just hold down my zipper. So make sure you're pinning your zipper to the 1 inch allowance, so you can use your chalk to mark it out so that you won't get confused. So when I'm done pinning, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine now and stitch it all the way down on that 1 inch mark. And when I'm done with that, I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. I'll fold in the upper part and use my pins to hold down the zipper and then stitch it all the way down. So it's going to appear this way when I'm done. So when I'm done with that, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after I inserted the zipper at the back, this is what it looks like. You can see how neat the results came out, and this is what the wrong side looks like. So the next thing I want to do is to start joining the front and the back panels together. So I'm going to get my front panel now and I'm going to start with the shoulder area. So this is the reason why we did not close up the shoulder. I want it to have a very neat finishing. So I'm going to place it this way, fabric to fabric and lining to lining, and then I'll go ahead to use half an inch to join them together. I'll do the same thing for the other side, fabric to fabric and lining to lining, right sides facing each other, and then I'll stitch it down. So when I'm done with that, I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So after using that method to join the shoulder areas together, this is what it looks like on the wrong side. So you can see how neat the inside of the dress looks. So the next thing I want to do is to finish up the armhole area. So go ahead to flip it over to the wrong side. So on one side, flip it over to the wrong side for both the front and the back. So after I flipped one side of the front and the back panel to the wrong side, this is what it looks like. So fixing the other side into it this way, and then go ahead to close up the armhole area. So we're only doing this because we are not attaching sleeves to our dress. So go ahead to stitch it down using half an inch, right side facing each other, close up the front and the back armhole. So when I'm done with that, I'm going to flip it over to the right side and then do the same thing for the other side of the front and the back panel. So when I'm done with that, I'll show you guys. So after stitching down the armhole area, let's go ahead to turn it over to the right side together. So patiently bring out one side from the other this way. So by the time you bring it out, you see what you're trying to achieve. You see how neat the inside of your dress is going to look. It's going to give it a really good professional finishing. So after turning over, make sure you bring out all the edges. You can use a pointy object to bring out all the edges. So when you flip it now to the wrong side, you can see how neat it looks on the inside. You can see that we finished the armhole on the inside already. So the next thing we want to do now is to join the front and the back panels together on the sides. So I'm going to place them this way, right sides facing each other. So I'm going to iron this out first before I join the sides together, and then I'll use my remaining 1-inch seam allowance to join the sides. Remember, we've used half an inch to turn over with the lining, so I'll use the remaining 1 inch to join the sides together all the way down. So when I'm done with that, I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So after closing up the sides of the dress, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead to iron it out. So this is what the other side looks like. So the next thing we want to do is to cut out the fabric we're going to use to form the gathers on both sides. So we're going to be using this fabric that we cut out initially to form the gathers on this side. We're going to be using the slash and spread method. So I have both the front and the back pieces here, and I'm going to join them together before I do the slash and spread. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it for one side while I do the other off the camera. So I'll join it together and then I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So after joining the two pieces together, this is what it looks like. You can see that it fits into that cutout space. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get my tape roll and come over to the lower part and take 1 inch all the way down. I'll just mark 1 inch all the way down, and after marking, I'll take my ruler and start connecting that 1 inch I marked all the way this way. Connect it all the way this way. So after marking out the lines, I'll find a way to just label them so that I won't mix it up. So you can use your marker to do this since you're not going to use the fabric again, or you can do it on your paper. So I'll go ahead now to cut it out this way. So this is what it looks like after I was done cutting. So what I'm going to do now is to fold a fabric into two and spread these pieces out on it. So I'll do that now and show you guys. So after I arrange the fabrics on another fabric that is in a fold of two, this is what it looks like. So fold the fabric into two because we want two pieces of the bigger fabric for both sides of the dress. So I made sure my fabrics are about 1.5 inches to 2 inches apart from each other. It was about 2 inches. So what I'm going to do now is take my chalk and just trace out what I have. So if you don't want your gathers really full, you don't have to split the fabrics into tiny pieces. You can just do into 4 or into 3 and then spread this out to cut out another fabric. So when I'm done, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So go ahead to cut it out following the mark. I'll just cut it out this way. So after cutting out, you can see that we have two pieces of the fabric. That was why we folded into two, one for the left hand side and one for the right side. So go ahead to further fold it again into 2 equal parts to get the center point, the uppermost center point, and notch it out. So after notching, let's fold in the base before we attach it to our dress. So go ahead to use that 1 inch allowance to fold in twice and stitch it all the way down. So when I'm done with that, I'll show you guys. After I finished up the base, this is what it looks like. So the next thing we want to do is to attach it to our dress. So go ahead to open up the dress this way and then take the side of the fabric that you notched. This is the reason why we notched, and match it to the point where you joined your dress on the side this way, and then you can use your pins to just secure it. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go ahead to start gathering this fabric into it. But before I start gathering, I'll turn the fabric to the base of the dress this way and stitch it using a straight stitch. I won't gather these points all the way down to 10 inches. So I'm going to do 10 inches from the lower part, straight stitch all the way down, and then from the remaining part I'll just gather it into it. And then on the back area, I'll do the same thing. I'll merge the fabrics, and then from the lower part, from the base, I'll stitch it 10 inches up using a straight stitch. And then when I get to that 10 inches mark, I'll gather the remaining part of the fabric into the dress. I'll stitch it up to 10 inches and gather the remaining part into it. So I'll do the same thing for the other side, and then I'll show you guys the finished product of this dress. So after I attach the gathers on both sides, this is what it looks like. You can see how beautiful this looks. So I stitch it up straight up to that point before I gather the fabric. So this is what the back looks like. So this is where we'll end this video for today. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you learned something new today. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful. Leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, share with your loved ones, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.